Rain poured relentlessly that night, drumming against the dim windows of Luna's diner, a small, forgotten corner cafe tucked between two crumbling brick buildings. Inside, the air smelled of coffee, wet pavement, and exhaustion. Mia wiped the counter for the 5th time, her eyes flicking to the clock that seemed determined to move slower than time itself. At just 23, Mia had already seen more than most people her age. She worked double shifts, slept in a tiny rented room above the diner, and sent half her earnings to the orphanage that had once sheltered her. Her life was quiet, predictable, until that night. The door creaked open with a low groan, and a rush of cold air swept in. A young boy, drenched to the bone and shivering, stumbled inside. He couldn't have been older than 12. His clothes were torn, his shoes soaked through, and his face pale beneath the flickering fluorescent light. "Hey!" Mia called softly, hurrying over. "You okay, kid?" He looked up, startled, eyes wide, piercing blue eyes that shimmered with fear and confusion. "Please," he whispered, voice trembling. "Don't call anyone. I just need to stay for a while." Mia hesitated. A dozen rules from her boss echoed in her mind. No loiterers, no free meals, no exceptions. But something in the boy's trembling voice cracked her heart open. She ushered him to a booth near the heater, grabbing a towel and a cup of hot cocoa. As he sipped, his hands shook so violently that a few drops spilled. Mia crouched beside him. "What's your name?" He hesitated. "Leo," he said after a pause. "Just Leo." "All right, Leo," she smiled gently. "You're safe here." But safety, that night, was an illusion. Outside, through the rain-smeared window, a black SUV crawled slowly past the diner, its tinted windows reflecting the neon sign. Mia didn't notice, but Leo did. His cup clattered as he ducked beneath the table. "Leo," she whispered urgently. "What's wrong?" He didn't answer. Only his frightened eyes peeked out from under the table. "Please," he said. "If they find me, they'll take me back." Mia froze. "Who?" Before he could reply, the diner door swung open with force. 3 men in dark coats entered, scanning the room with sharp, cold eyes. One of them flashed a badge. Private security, maybe, but something about them felt wrong. "We're looking for a boy," the tallest one said, voice flat. "You seen anyone come through here?" Mia's pulse quickened. She forced a neutral smile. "A boy? No. Just me closing up for the night." The man's eyes lingered on her for a moment too long. Then he turned toward the booths. Mia's stomach twisted. They were heading straight for Leo. Without thinking, she moved. "Hey!" she said sharply, stepping in front of them. "If you're going to interrogate someone, come back with a warrant. This is private property." The man smirked. "Bold words, waitress. You sure you want to get involved?" "I'm sure," she said, her voice steady despite the fear clawing at her chest. The tension was suffocating, until the sound of sirens sliced through the rain. The men exchanged quick glances, muttered something, and rushed out the door. Mia exhaled, her knees nearly giving way. She looked toward the booth. Leo was gone. Panic surged through her. She ran outside, calling his name into the storm. The street was empty, except for fading taillights of the SUV disappearing into the night. Hours later, drenched and shaking, Mia returned inside, her mind spinning. Who was that boy? Why were men chasing him? And why did he look so familiar? She thought about those eyes, that deep blue she couldn't forget. It tugged at a memory, something she'd seen once in a newspaper lying on the diner counter. A billionaire's son who'd gone missing months ago. The resemblance was uncanny. Mia's breath caught. No, it couldn't be. The next morning, she barely slept. The rain had stopped, but her thoughts hadn't. She walked to the park near the diner, hoping for a glimpse of the mysterious boy. And there, under the old oak tree, she saw him. Leo sat wrapped in a thin blanket, asleep, his face peaceful in the soft dawn light. Mia knelt beside him. "Hey, you're safe now," she whispered. He stirred, eyes fluttering open, then widened in fear. "You shouldn't be here," he said urgently. "They'll come back." "I'm not leaving you," Mia replied firmly. "Tell me what's going on." Leo hesitated, glancing around before whispering. "They're not trying to bring me home. They're trying to silence me. My father, He didn't just disappear. He was killed, and they don't want anyone to know I saw it. Mia's blood ran cold. What are you saying, Leo? Before he could answer, a voice echoed from behind them, smooth, cold, and terrifyingly familiar. Well, the man said, stepping out from behind a tree, flanked by two others. Looks like the little heir found himself a guardian angel. Mia turned, her heart pounding, recognizing the same man from the diner. He smiled, cruel and calm. Too bad for you. Sweetheart, this story ends tonight. But Mia didn't move. For the first time in years, something stronger than fear burned in her chest, defiance. And just as the men advanced, headlights suddenly flared across the park. The blinding glare of headlights cut through the mist, scattering the shadows across the wet grass. The men froze for a second, their faces lit in stark white. A car door slammed shut, followed by hurried footsteps splashing through puddles. Step away from the boy, a commanding voice rang out. It wasn't loud, but it carried a tone that demanded obedience. Mia squinted through the rain and saw a tall figure approaching, a man in a tailored black coat, his expression unreadable beneath the soft glow of the streetlight. The men who had cornered her stiffened. Mr. Grayson, one of them muttered under his breath, lowering his gun ever so slightly. Leo's eyes widened. He whispered, "That's my father's right-hand man." Mia's heart skipped. What's he doing here? The man stopped just a few feet away, his polished shoes sinking into the muddy earth. His gaze moved from Mia to Leo, then back again. "You shouldn't be here, Leo," he said evenly. "You've caused quite a mess." Leo took a step back, trembling. "You're lying," he said. "You told me my father was dead, but I saw what you did. I saw you." "Careful," Grayson interrupted softly, his voice calm but sharp as a knife. "You've been through a lot, son. Sometimes the mind. Stop pretending." Leo shouted, his small fist balled tight. "You were there. You killed him." The air went still. Even the rain seemed to pause. Mia stared at Grayson, disbelief and fury surging through her veins. "You killed his father?" she whispered. Grayson's eyes flicked toward her. "You have no idea what you've stumbled into, young lady. Walk away now, and I'll forget I saw you." Mia's pulse pounded in her ears, but she didn't move. She grabbed Leo's hand and stood between him and the men. "If you think I'm leaving him, you don't know me at all." Grayson sighed, almost weary. "I was hoping it wouldn't come to this." He lifted his hand slightly, a subtle signal. The two men behind him stepped forward. "Run, Leo!" Mia shouted. She shoved him backward just as the men lunged. One grabbed her arm, but she twisted, throwing the contents of her bag, napkins, coins, her diner name tag, into his face. He cursed, stumbling. The other reached for Leo, but the boy darted away into the trees. Mia broke free and sprinted after him, her shoes slipping on the muddy ground. "Leo, keep going," she yelled. Branches whipped against her face as they ran to the park, the sound of boots crashing behind them. The city lights glowed faintly in the distance, but they were too far from safety. Suddenly, Leo stumbled, falling to his knees. Mia dropped beside him, gasping for breath. "Are you hurt?" He shook his head, tears mixing with the rain. "I can't do this anymore," he sobbed. "They'll find us." Mia grabbed his shoulders. "Listen to me, Leo. You survived this long because you're strong. We just need to get somewhere safe, somewhere they can't touch you." He nodded weakly. Then a rustle behind them made her spin. Grayson stepped into view, umbrella in hand, his coat spotless despite the storm. "You've been brave," he said calmly. "But bravery won't save you." Mia's eyes darted around. They were surrounded. Two men flanked him, guns drawn. "Let him go," she said, her voice shaking with anger. "He's just a child." "Exactly," Grayson replied, stepping closer. "A child who saw something he shouldn't have. If that truth gets out, entire empires crumble. You think the world will believe a frightened boy over the men who own it?" Mia's breath caught. "You're covering up a murder." "I'm preserving order," he said coldly. "And unfortunately, you're now part of the chaos." For a brief moment, their eyes met, and something unspoken passed between them. Grayson hesitated, as though torn between duty and doubt, but it vanished as quickly as it came. "Take them," he ordered. The men advanced, and then the roar of another engine tore through the night. Headlights again, brighter this time. Tires screeched as a sleek black sedan slid to a halt just behind Mia and Leo. The driver's door flew open. "Get in," a woman's voice shouted. Without thinking, Mia grabbed Leo and bolted. Grayson yelled something, but the gunshots drowned it out. Bullets hit the mud inches away as Mia dove into the car, pulling the boy with her. The door slammed shut, and the car sped away, fishtailing on the wet pavement. Inside, Mia was breathless, shaking. The woman driving was tall, sharp-eyed, dressed in a long coat. "You two just made powerful enemies," she said without looking back. "Who are you?" Mia demanded. The woman gave a humorless smile. "Someone who doesn't like Grayson's way of doing business." She handed Mia a folded piece of paper. "There's an address. Take the boy there. Tell him Agent Reed sent you." Before Mia could speak, the car slowed near an alley. "This is as far as I go. They'll track me if I keep you longer." Leo's voice was small. "But—" "Go," Reed said sharply. "Now." Mia and Leo slipped out and ran again, clutching paper. The car peeled away, disappearing into the night. When they reached the address, a crumbling old library on the edge of the city. The first light of dawn had begun to creep across the horizon. Mia pushed open the door, and the scent of dust and old books filled the air. "Hello," she called softly. A man appeared from behind a tall bookshelf, gray-haired, wearing glasses, his expression calm but wary. "You must be the ones Reed mentioned," he said quietly. "Come in before someone sees you." He led them into a hidden room beneath the library, down a narrow staircase. The space below was unexpected, filled with computers, maps, and files spread across tables. Mia stared. "What is this place?" "A safe house," the man replied, "for people running from men like Grayson." Leo sat down heavily, exhaustion finally overwhelming him. Mia knelt beside him, brushing the wet hair from his forehead. "You're safe now," she whispered. But even as she said it, her mind raced. "Safe for how long?" The man studied her for a moment. "You've risked a lot for this boy," he said. "Do you understand who he is?" Mia nodded slowly. "He's the son of the billionaire Richard Hale, the one who vanished." The man's gaze hardened. Vanished is the official story. Murdered is the truth. And Leo here is the only witness. Mia's throat tightened. "Then we have to tell the police." "They won't listen," the man said grimly. "Grayson has half the city under his thumb. The only way to expose him is to find the proof your father left behind." Leo looked up, startled. "My father left proof?" The man nodded. "Encrypted files. Evidence of every crime Grayson's been covering up for years. But the key to unlocking it, your father's personal watch, disappeared the night he died." Mia frowned. "A watch?" "Yes," the man said. "If we find it, we find everything." Mia turned to Leo. "Do you remember where you last saw it?" Leo thought hard, eyes distant. He wore it that night in his office. But after he fell, Grayson took something from his wrist. His voice cracked. "It must be the watch." Mia's heart pounded. "Then that's what we need to get back." The man hesitated. "Breaking into Grayson's estate isn't simple. It's guarded, and if he finds out—" "He won't," Mia said firmly. "I got Leo out once. I can do it again." For the first time, Leo looked at her, truly looked with something like trust. "You'd really go back there?" "For me?" Mia smiled faintly. "You saved my heart when I thought I had nothing left. I'm not letting them take you." The man exhaled, rubbing his temples. "Then you'll need help. And luck. A lot of both." Mia stood, determination hardening her voice. "Tell me everything you know about Grayson's estate." As he spread blueprints across the table, the faint hum of the city awakening filled the silence. Somewhere outside, Grayson's men were already searching, but Mia didn't care. For the first time in her life, she wasn't just surviving, she was fighting back. The night had returned, calm but heavy with tension, the kind that presses against the air before a storm breaks. Mia stood in the shadows across from the towering gates of Grayson's estate. The mansion loomed like a sleeping beast, silent, guarded, and glimmering faintly under the silver wash of moonlight. She adjusted the small earpiece Agent Reed had given her and whispered, "I'm in position." Reed's voice crackled through the line. "Security shifts in 2 minutes. Once the North Patrol passes, move through the garden. Cameras are disabled for 90 seconds. That's your window." Mia nodded to herself. Her heart hammered, but her eyes were sharp. Leo was safe in the library's underground safe house, guarded by Reed's team. He had begged her not to go, but Mia couldn't stop now. The watch, that final piece of proof, was the only way to destroy Grayson's empire and free Leo from the shadows that haunted him. When the patrol turned the corner, Mia moved, low, fast, silent. The damp grass muffled her steps. She reached the side gate, slipped the lock with trembling fingers, and darted through. The mansion's stone walls loomed close, covered in ivy that brushed her hands like whispers. Inside, the corridor smelled of expensive cologne and secrets. She crept through, her breath shallow, her body tense. Grayson's study was on the second floor, the same place where Leo's father had been killed. She reached the stairway, only to freeze at the faint sound of voices. 2 guards stood by the landing. Grayson's in the east wing. One said, "He's been on edge ever since that girl, and the kid got away." "Can you blame him?" the other replied. "That waitress is turning into a damn ghost story." Mia's lips twitched despite the fear. Good, she thought. Let him be afraid. When the guards turned, she slipped past them, blending into the dark. The hall stretched long and quiet, lined with portraits, men in suits, each more powerful looking than the last. Their painted eyes seemed to follow her, judgmental, as if aware of her trespass. Finally, she reached the double doors of Grayson's study. Her hand hovered over the brass handle. 1 breath. 2. She pushed the door open. The room was vast, mahogany walls, a massive desk, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the grounds. And there, glinting faintly on the desk, was what she'd come for, the watch. Mia crossed the room quickly and snatched it up, her pulse thundering. It was heavier than she expected, sleek and cold. The back had a small engraving, RH. She barely had time to exhale before a slow clap echoed behind her. "Well done," came a voice that froze her in place. "You're even more resourceful than I thought." Grayson stepped out from the shadows, immaculate as always. A black suit, no tie, his eyes sharp and hollow. "I was wondering when you'd show up," he said, taking a few casual steps forward. "You really think you can waltz into my home and steal from me?" Mia turned, clutching the watch. "It doesn't belong to you." He smirked. "Neither did the boy, but you took him too." Her jaw tightened. "You killed his father." Grayson sighed. Such an ugly word, killed. Let's call it business. Richard Hale was going to expose corruption that would have burned down the entire financial sector. Billions lost, thousands unemployed. He wanted justice. I wanted stability. He spread his hands as though explaining something logical. I simply made a choice the world needed me to make. Mia's voice trembled, but her resolve didn't. And Leo? What was he? Another business decision? He was a liability, Grayson said coldly. Until he ran away, I intended to send him abroad, quietly. No one would have ever known he existed. But then you, a nobody waitress, decided to play hero. Mia's heart pounded, but her fear was gone now, replaced by fury. Maybe I'm a nobody, but at least I can still tell the difference between right and evil. Grayson chuckled, stepping closer. Do you really think that watch changes anything? Destroy me, and another man takes my place. That's how the world works, Miss Carter. She lifted her chin. Then I'll destroy them all if I have to. He tilted his head, almost amused. Bold words, but you won't live long enough to try. Before she could move, he lunged. She dodged, the watch flying from her hand. It clattered across the floor, sliding under the desk. Grayson grabbed her arm, twisting it behind her back. Pain shot through her shoulder. Such a waste, he hissed. You could have had a quiet life. Maybe even some money. But you chose this. Mia gritted her teeth and kicked backward, slamming her heel into his knee. He stumbled, cursing. She broke free, dove under the desk, and grabbed the watch. As she came up, she slammed a heavy glass paperweight against his temple. He staggered, blood trickling down the side of his face. "You'll regret that," he growled, reaching for his gun. Mia hit the panic button on her earpiece. "Reed, I've got it." But he's... Gunfire cracked through the room. The bullet missed her by inches, splintering the wall. She dove behind the desk as Grayson fired again. "Stop hiding," he shouted. "You can't win." But before he could shoot again, the window shattered. Smoke grenades rolled across the carpet, hissing white clouds. Figures in tactical gear stormed the room, Reed's agents. Chaos erupted. Grayson fired wildly, hitting one agent in the vest. Another tackled him to the ground, wresting the gun from his hand. Mia crawled out, coughing, clutching the watch. Reed rushed in, eyes scanning the room. "You got it." She held up the watch. Trembling. "Right here." He took it gently. "Then it's over." But Grayson, pinned beneath two agents, laughed through gritted teeth. "You think you've won? You have no idea what you've unleashed." Reed glanced at him coolly. "You'll have plenty of time to explain from a cell." They hauled him up, handcuffed and bleeding, as Mia stood frozen, her mind reeling. Hours later, the sun rose over the city. For the first time in weeks, the air felt lighter. Mia stood on the library rooftop with Leo, watching the first rays of light stretch over the skyline. Reed approached, the watch in hand. "It's done," he said. "The data inside exposed everything: fraud, blackmail, bribery. The authorities are already dismantling Grayson's network. He won't see daylight again." Leo's eyes filled with tears. "My father, people will finally know the truth?" Reed nodded. "He'll be remembered for what he really was, a man who tried to make things right." Leo turned to Mia. "You did it." She shook her head softly. "We did it." For a long moment, silence hung between them, peaceful, filled with unspoken gratitude. The wind brushed through Mia's hair, carrying away the last remnants of fear. "You could start over now," Reed said gently. "New name, new life. We can make sure you're safe." Mia looked at Leo, then at the horizon. "I'm tired of running," she said quietly, "but I'm not done fighting." Reed studied her for a moment and smiled faintly. "I had a feeling you'd say that." He turned to leave, but Leo tugged Mia's sleeve. "What happens to me now?" She knelt beside him. "You get to live," she said softly. "Really live. Not hiding, not afraid. Your father would want that." Leo threw his arms around her. She held him tightly, tears burning her eyes. For the first time, she felt the warmth of family, something she'd never truly known. Below them, the city buzzed with awakening, news headlines flashing across screens. Billionaire's murder exposed, whistleblower network uncovered, justice for Richard Hale. The truth was finally free. But Mia knew freedom came at a price. She had scars that wouldn't fade, memories of fear, betrayal, and loss. Yet beneath all of it was something stronger: hope. Days turned into weeks. The diner reopened under new management, and Mia went back, not because she had to, but because she wanted to. The same walls that once echoed her loneliness now felt alive again. Customers came and went, unaware of the war she had fought in silence. Every morning, she brewed an extra cup of cocoa, just the way Leo liked it, and smiled when he ran in after school, waving his latest drawing or homework. He lived with a guardian now, but he visited her every day, calling her his lucky charm. Sometimes at night, Mia would look out from the diner window, where it had all begun, and whisper to the rain, "We made it." And somewhere beyond the noise of the city, in a high-security prison, Grayson sat alone in his cell, replaying her words. "I'll destroy them all if I have to." A faint smile touched his lips, but it wasn't amusement. It was fear, because for the first time he believed her. Meanwhile, Mia's story spread quietly, inspiring thousands who'd once felt powerless. People began calling her the waitress who defied the billionaire. Journalists searched for her, but she never sought fame. Her victory wasn't in headlines. It was in every life she touched, every truth she helped uncover. One evening, as twilight settled over the city, Mia walked with Leo along the pier. The sky burned gold and rose. Leo looked up at her and said, "You know, Dad used to say heroes don't wear capes. They wear kindness." She smiled, her eyes misty. "Then maybe we both are, huh?" He grinned. "Maybe." As the wind swept across the water, Mia closed her eyes and felt peace for the first time in years. The storm that had once threatened to drown her had become the very thing that made her stronger. And in that quiet moment, with the boy she'd saved beside her and the city lights glittering like promises ahead, she realized something profound. That courage wasn't about being fearless. It was about standing in the rain, trembling, and still choosing to fight for someone else. The poor waitress who had risked her life for a homeless boy had unknowingly rewritten destiny itself. And in doing so, she became the kind of legend the world never forgets.